Welcome back to another video, everybody. Today's video will be a special request from one of my locals named Tyler. I asking about just different deck profiles or a character someone would want to see, and he kind of just spoke up and said, "Hey, man, I love Gentle Criminal. I want to see what a updated Gentle Criminal list would look like with some AOT, some newest sets, stuff with Godzilla, yada yada yada." So, the deck uh, kind of is playing a chaos good stuff, if you want to say. We're trying to maximize out momentum abilities and just acquiring, like, since he doesn't put damage on face, we got to find it elsewhere, which, to be honest, it's kind of lacking on, like, unless your character has it, your damage is coming from, like, basically pressing the advantage and basic training for the most part, or powerful-esque type abilities. So, yeah, so I kind of went that way. Is like, we're just going to try to play good value attacks and see if we can get our opponent to block some and then bomb them later in the turn. So, really the first attack I added into the deck was Massive Swing. This is my favorite attack. At least one of my favorite attacks out of Attack on Titan. It has a really good blitz ability. You get a momentum. It has powerful. It's statted very well at a 5 mid for 6. Deadlock Blitz at the top card of your deck to your momentum. So we can technically get 2 momentum out of it for the powerful if our opponent's in deadlock. So it gives us some punishing power. Next would be pressing the advantage. With Gentle, the more your opponent blocks, the easier it's going to be to pass checks. So, with our speed being boosted by our character, this card kind of acts as like a main kill con. We have a Massive Swing and Double Trouble in the deck to do like secondary kill cons, but like this thing right here, if we lace the end of a string and our opponent has been blocking, we can pretty much pass on a 5. Because Gentle gives like bonus to check based on the block mod your opponent blocks with. And then we can get extra speed, but then again, since our speed's going to, in theory, our speed will be so great, they're going to have to commit resources to pass it. So we're going to be able to get a giant number out of this. Next is one of the bread and butter attacks for Gentle, Gently Trampoline. Too low for 4. I don't think a lot of people have seen this card played a lot. It's a 4 difficulty, +1 low block, which is really good. Enhanced, its attack is block, draw a card. Gentle Criminal enhance, if its attack deals damage, draw 2. More often than not, your opponent is going to just eat this? Question mark. It's really probably better just to let them draw the 1 card if blocked and then get bonuses to the next attack than it is to like let them draw 2. But again, it's only for 4 damage, so it just depends when it's played. Also, pity the fool who partially blocked this thing. You might as well not even block it. I guess unless it kills you, then you're gonna have to. Next is one of the best attacks in the game currently, Vast Hybrid Chimera Kraken. This attack needs no introduction. It's asset hate. It's momentum hate, foundation hate. Also, when it gets into your momentum, you get some extra speed, which is really great in the deck. Even though we don't really need that much extra speed because Gentle Criminal will give us the extra speed. So basically, this is one of our it's one of the attacks that touch our opponent's board because outside of like some stuns and stuff, and this being able to push giant numbers on our speed to hopefully our opponent commits out a lot, this is really the only way to deal with stuff. Claw Stopper, everyone knows this card too if you've been around for a few, since set 5. It has a momentum ability to draw a card, discard, so we get some hand fixing. Also, if we have momentum, which if it's played after a Massive Swing we will, and then you get to just straight up draw a card. It has Breaker. It's a decently statted 4 diff at a 4 mid 4. The worst case about it is that it has a +2 mid block. Next is like a secondary utility attack, but actually can be just randomly 10 damage if our opponent has no cards in hand. Double Trouble. This has seen a lot of play lately, basically because it's just a 4 diff cycle 2 cards, draw 2 cards, stun 2, with 1 momentum. So if we're able to get some momentum, we're going to be able to just push a 2 mid for 5, which on the first copy of it, the first time we play it, it won't be that great. But if our opponent blocks it, we get to use Gentle Criminal Response and give speed to it. So it can actually become pretty respectable. But being able to echo, draw 2, discard 2, draw 2, stun 2 is actually really good on an attack. Next up is Vertical Maneuver Equipment. This may just be a win more card in him, because if our opponent, I guess, blocks, we get extra speed. But really, it's like some extra damage possibly, and then also we get to change the zone for our attacks as well. And it helps us with if our opponent isn't blocking our stuff to give us like extra speed. This actually comes in handy to give us extra speed. And then also on the flip side, it allows us to block better. And then we're able to respond with Gentle Criminal to give the next check to block even more. Next up are zeros in the foundations. We got Master's Pride. We're going to be able to snap some momentum. Even at the end of a turn, this works. So if we're going to add a card to momentum, if we've committed some resources, this will allow it to, after we add that card at the end, during the end phase, we get to flip this and ready it. Basic training, easily excited, both at a 4x. We get extra damage here, extra speed here. So really, these don't need any, really explanation. This gives us a deadlock effect as well. Horrifying Realization, we would like some extra card draw in the deck, other than just basing off maybe Claw Stopper and Gently Trampoline, and then being able to just get some outside draw. Form abilities are very hard to cancel. I can only think of maybe 1 or 2 cards that can just straight up cancel this ability, and even then, we lose nothing because it's a flip as cost. So that's pretty good. We get to draw both players draw a card, discard a card, then draw a card. Then if our rival committed discarded a foundation, they'll commit a foundation. So it helps us commit more pieces on our rival's side because it's going to be harder for them to block. 4x Fearsome Transformation. We want to draw more cards. We want to be able to filter, draw more cards, being able to play more attacks, and kind of get out some of our really cool tech resources that we need for our defense. 4 copies of Fast Friendship. I'm pretty sure if you look at some of my decks on like the most played cards, this is probably one of the most played cards I play in a deck, especially since I've been playing a lot of Chaos and Life symbols. Even off of water, I have a water deck profile that's coming out in a week or two. This also has a 4x in it. Flip for -2 speed and flip for -3 speed is a fantastic return on a 1 diff. Cooperation Offer, which on life you can play, which is a 2 diff for -3 speed on a flip, was always valued very high because you can still commit the card used to flip, so we can still commit this to pass the check. So really, it's kind of almost 1 extra minus speed, but if you think about it in a roundabout way. One card that's really like creeping up, not pardon the pun, to creeping up the ranks slowly in my mind, is Creeped Out. 1/5 +3 mid, commit or check to block. This attack gets +2, then if a breaker ability is played, it gets -1 to its rating. Granted, we probably wouldn't do that because Gentle gets all modifications into speed, so breaker does affect that. But the check to block this attack is very good because it's very hard to interact with check hacking. It just is. Like pluses and minuses, it's really hard. Speed is a lot easier to interact with, so that's what we went with Creeped Out. 2 struggling with studies. I kind of almost wanted to cut this card, but I think a 2x is just fine. If we're able to like block with an attack and then our opponent keeps going, we can pick it up like a Claw Stopper, or like a Gently Trampoline if they're throwing a bunch of lows, or or any type of good block for the most part. Also, it's flip protection, which is great. A really weird thing is I didn't have Chivalrous in this deck because I was already kind of loaded in the low blocks. So, and I think there's with Horrifying Realization and Fearsome Transformation, and we have Button Collector in the deck. I don't think we really need a whole bunch of draw, like extra draw, especially if it's going to benefit our opponent. I think the only thing we would really want from it is the flip and destruction protection. 2 copies of Train with Gunhead. If our check to play this attack was modified by an effect, which could have been by our character, we get an additional speed. Also, it's some throw hate. Granted, like, really the big throw is Colossal Titan attacks, so this really reduces that kabillion damage to 2, so it's actually kind of worth playing in this meta right now. We got 1 copy of Disarming Glance. We have 1 on the board, but it stops our opponent from draw. It stops any abilities being played that draw cards. Add cards to hand after it resolves, so it just shuts down draw during an attack, offensively and defensively. Incredible Display. It's Incredible Display. Cancels responses, non-character responses. Also adds foundations back to our hand, so we can be able to block longer. So like a really cool trick is to block 2 things with Incredible Display, and then pick it up with Struggling and block again if you need to. 3 copies of Nice Try. Extra speed hate's never bad. I always like having 2 to 3 extra forms of speed, 2 to 3 forms of speed hate in my deck. Usually 1 is a committal, 1 is a flip, and 1 is somewhere else. Sometimes it's on another flip. This time we have Vertical Maneuvering. Also, Gentle's response, where you get extra to the check, kind of affects that as well. 1 copy of Broken Psyche, because being able to say no, put an attack to 2 damage for a flip and discard, and momentum is fantastic. Discard probably could be more copies of this. Also could be Struggling with not Struggling with Studies. Chivalrous Competitor could also be more Nice Try. It could be also more Broken Psyche. But I kind of like both abilities on this card. We could spend a momentum, seal 2 foundations, offensively or defensively. Our rival has to destroy a foundation to cancel it, so that's not bad. Excuse me. Enhance Commit. Draw 1 card for each copy of Button Collector. If we drew 2 or more cards this way, flip this card. We're really only looking for the commit draw card. So if we have 2 and flip 1, it's not big of a deal. But we do want extra card draw. So this may be one of those cards where we're like, anything to draw a card, but this is probably the first cut into something else that I would probably add. I also forgot to talk about Cape of No Return. We got 2 copies that all worked up. This was a late addition into the deck because I needed some more spam with high blocks. If it's discarded during the enhanced step, which means from hand, which usually doesn't happen. Maybe Double Trouble. Yeah, Double Trouble can do that. I don't see anything else. So really Double Trouble is your only discard outlet. But what we're really playing this for is the next check to play a card gets +1, because that kind of ties into our character a little bit. So if we somehow have to commit this, we can pop it and get an extra check and speed with our character. Also, we're going to mention Cape of No Return. It's Cape of No Return. It's one of the best assets in the game. Next up, our board, we got 2 copies of Genkai's Guidance. This card may be going down in value. I don't know. I think it just depends on the build. I still like it as a 1 or 2x in decks. More than this card, Runaway, which there's so many response cancels. Like, do you really want to lose? You have to figure out a way to deal with Incredible Display if they have it on board first, before you can even do this. And the +5 mid block is just gross, and it sucks if you run into Deception Dagger decks. But you don't side this into Deception Dagger decks because, yeah, you just don't. 2 copies of Shocking Realization. Sacrifice, return this attack to its printed speed. Allows us to just be able to block better. Disarming Glance is just an extra copy from the board. Same thing with Broken Psyche and Vertical Maneuvering and Cape. So just to round out our sideboard. So our block spread is a 19 high, 28 mid, 18 low. It's a little more attack heavy than normal at 21, but I think he can, with the pluses to checks, after his top response after an attack is blocked, your next check to play an attack or block is +X. X equals the printed block modifier. of the block. Normally, you can get an extra plus, 1 to 3. Not very many not many cards have a lot of +0 block mods, um, but there are ways to manipulate your block mod. But it's really cool when they start blocking with 3s and you get +3 to your check and you never fail an attack. So that's the Journal Criminal deck, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments below. We're gonna have some more content, more mixtures of content, more Universus 101s. I got a couple box openings coming, and that's pretty much it. So until the next video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, take care.